You no longer have, the power in the relationship. You can't hold their survival over their heads. Yeah, when we needed you to eat and live and to survive, of course we had to stick around and deal with your bullshit. But once we don't need you anymore, what's left is the relationship that y'all cultivated or lack thereof.
The patient is asking me to call his son, who he's not spoken to in 10 years, and tell him to come visit him before he dies. Okay. So he said no, he's not going to come. I said that I respect that decision. Asked if he wants me to notify him whenever his dad does die, and he said yes. I have to go in here now and tell the patient that. Okay, I told my patient. Didn't go well. I told him that his son said that he doesn't want to come. The patient asked if I told him that he was dying. I said I did. He said, you should have told him that he had to come.
But the thing is that these parents don't understand. We communicated everything up until this point. There's lines of communication of how we feel. We don't just go no contact like that. So you can look back on those lines of communication and read it and take it in.
Parents say they don't know what they did wrong, and children say they're tired of speaking on deaf ears. Parents think it's unacceptable to cut off all communication ties, while kids think it's unacceptable to deny any wrongdoing and the childhood trauma that they experienced. Both sides lament the state of their relationship, so what is that disconnect and where do we go from here? Is cutting off your parents trending? We are all born fully dependent on our parents. No matter how toxic and unsympathetic they are, we need them to fulfill our basic survival needs. To put it bluntly, we have to put up with all of their BS. Because of this biological reliance, parents can feel secure that no matter what they do, they'll come home to eager faces desperately looking for their love and approval. The problem is that in that brief space of time, when parents have control, they may fail to build a mutual relationship that will keep the child coming back when they are fully mature and independent. Many of the parents miss the memo that that relationship can't be based on silence, obedience, and authority. When that period of control is over, a lot of children are saying, thank God I'm out, and I don't know if I want the toxicity in my life anymore.
I just found out that there is a support group for parents whose children have gone no contact with them. And while I will not speak about the intentions of that group itself, what I will speak on is the comments of the videos that I've seen, which are disgusting. First off, a disturbing amount of these parents who have children who have gone no contact with them seem to be under the impression that they have no idea what they did and that they did nothing wrong, and that they are being unfairly punished or prosecuted. That's the word they used. If their adult children have children, they also seem to think that they are entitled to those grandchildren, using phrases like, she stole my grandchildren from me. They're her children. The majority also seem to be under the impression that their children are simply making it up. And even when their adult children have told them why they're doing this, they say that their children are simply liars and that they don't know what to do, instead of trying to listen when your child is trying to tell you about the trauma that you put them through. Am I saying that the adult child can never be the aggressor or the abuser in these situations? No, of course not. That happens. Am I saying that I believe that is a very, very small minority? Yes. Lie to your support group. Don't lie to me or your kids.
Some people try to find the root cause in old school philosophies, such as children should be seen, not heard. You have to raise your hand, be quiet, follow the rules, and defer to authority. You have to respect your elders. But there is one thing that all of these philosophies have in common that I think abstracts to a much larger problem and message. It's the idea that adults are people, but children are not. And hear me out. It's the idea that you should listen to what an adult has to say, but children, they are just saying childish things. You should let adults choose what they want to eat, wear, drink, go, but for children, they have to play by the rules and also not be upset about it. Ultimately, children aren't getting credit for fully formed thoughts, opinions, and feelings, big feelings, until they're at the age of 18, and even then, not so much, because we have 30, 40, and 50-year-olds who are saying they still have that same problem with their parents. The problem is, of course, that we are always human beings. We are growing, learning, maturing, but also feeling and observing reality that we see through our eyes. As you watch these videos and read through the comments, the theme is so consistent that the parents are not validating and legitimizing the voices of their children and now fully grown adults. And the same children who are saying that they're going no contact are sometimes commenting and saying that they would erase that in a heartbeat and go back to the parent if only they heard an apology or some kind of acknowledgement of what they are feeling. That's crazy. It's like such an extreme measure would end in the blink of an eye with an "I'm sorry" and you still can't find it. That's wild. No contact with your parents seems to be trending, but something else is also trending, and that's the theme of reparenting. Reparenting is a do-over of your entire childhood where you pretend to be both the parent and the child and try to give yourself the advice that you very much needed way back when.
Parenting is learning how to reparent yourself. And it's learning how to be the parent that you needed to show up for you in all of the ways that, maybe didn't happen.
Patterns I noticed before reparenting myself. Number one, not knowing how to communicate. When you grow up in a household of screaming, physical violence, name calling, that's really all you know. And for a long time, it was really hard for me in healthy relationships to realize it's not cool to say things that you don't mean just because you're angry.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be late. I always take forever. I could have started getting dressed earlier, but no, I just scroll on my phone. I'll probably get fired and I deserve it. I'm an idiot. It's okay. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. You're just overwhelmed right now and having a lot of feelings because you're afraid. It's okay that you got caught up on your phone. You've been really stressed lately and it's your escape. What the fuck? All right, it's okay to be angry. The good thing about feelings is they always fade. And the good thing about all these intense thoughts you're having right now is that they're not true. You're doing an amazing job at work. I think you're probably just a little tired because you didn't get the best sleep last night.
Honestly, it's so beautiful, it's so healthy, and I see myself as a parent now catching myself in those instincts to shout, to yell, to react dramatically, of thinking about all of these examples and trying to be a better person. So I am just so incredibly blessed to be living in this day and age, is all I can say. What's fascinating about these videos is that you can see a lot of millennials, Gen Z who are parents now, are actually adopting gentle parenting, not just in their parenting approach, but in their reparenting of their own self. What is gentle parenting? As a quick informal summary, it's the idea that no matter what happens, the first step is to connect with how you are feeling, connect with the people around you, very much self-awareness focused, digesting your feelings, and then moving on to rules, boundaries, reactions after that initial digestion. So it's very much legitimize what you are feeling, take a moment, and then consider the next steps. This next video is from one of my absolutely favorite creators. She goes by the handle LauraLove5514.
You gotta stop sliding it because then it tips over sometimes and that happens.
I will not push it, Mommy.
You're not gonna push it?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because I'm coming a mess.
Hey, that's not nice. Oh, no. Hey, absolutely not. You want to swing. When you're feeling that way, you need to communicate that with your words, okay?
Is it okay if I swing? I really want to swing. Alone. Okay.
You silly boy. Ow! No, we don't bite Mama. That hurts. If you need something to bite, you gotta ask Mama. Say, Mama, bite.
Bite.
Yeah. Mama can give you that to bite. What, baby?
Bite.
You need something to bite?
Yeah.
And there you go.
Excuse me, I need some attention.
You need some attention?
Yeah.
Are you feeling left out?
Yeah.
One of the absolute gems phrases in her videos is that discipline does not have to be negative. We know that as adults, we can learn without punishment. When we do something wrong, even without someone correcting it, we often know why it is wrong. I see you. I see all of you who are trying to put your best foot forward, take a couple steps back, correct your own approaches, correct the way that you were raised, and heal yourself into a better person and a better parent.
And don't pin your loneliness on your adult children leaving. You're lonely because of your inability or unwillingness to address your own unhealed traumas, the fear and pain of which fuel the abusive behaviors that alienate you from intimate relationships with others, including your kids. And despite many misconceptions, we do not expect perfection. Although in many cases, even as children, that was certainly the expectation placed upon us. Progress happens in a series of a billion baby steps. And your adult children are not responsible for doing the legwork for you, especially when many of us are busy doing our own healing legwork so we don't repeat these toxic patterns with our own children.
Now, something I want to discuss here as well is the very prevalent need of this toxic parent to cling to their child, often in a very unhealthy way. It's not just that the parent is toxic and all your interactions with them are negative, but oftentimes the relationship that they pursue is very unhealthy in itself. And to approach this, I do want to address the money aspect of it, the fact that your parents invested in you as a child for so many years. And I'll start off by saying I don't believe that it's about the money or the investment. When a child is born, the parent takes on the responsibility societally, biologically, legally, to clothe you, feed you, and put you into school. And very likely, the children sitting at that table, when they do achieve the great successes that they go on to achieve, it's not due to the wise counseling of their very thoughtful and listening parent. Because those are not the parents we're talking about in this moment. Often it's very much in spite of their negativity and their negative opinions and their redirection into toxic habits. Because historically parenting has taken on aspects of control and authority, they think that they can demand that kind of relationship. Not that the child is an angel per se, but that there is a lot of energy and love and growth in future generations that adults would be privileged to be a part of. The second, more obvious and maybe even more prevalent reason is that toxic people tend to have other unhealthy relationships or no relationships at all outside of the ones with their children. So you have children being forced to fill in the gaps where community and friendship used to be for these parents, shifting the burden of their own loneliness and disconnect onto this child to carry as a weight and fill in for them. Let's be clear that you, as an adult, are not responsible for another adult's toxic behavior and habits. Just like you every day get to wake up, think about your life, and decide what decisions you want to make, the other person is very capable of doing the exact same thing. Why are they not doing that? It's a rhetorical question, but also they're probably missing some kind of healthy introspection that would help them correct the negative habits that they have today. These videos are really sad because sometimes it's not just about cutting off a parent. It's about cutting off the only family you have in your life or the entire family that you have in your life. Literally rather being alone than being connected to people who raised you.
Did everything I can to show my kids I loved them and be there for them. And why does this generation of kids just turn their back on their parents? Like, I would never treat my parents the way some of the things have been said to me from my kids. And I don't understand it. And it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. My friends, patients that I see at work, story after story after story after, my daughter doesn't talk to me, my son doesn't talk to me, like, just so much entitlement these days. And it's just so flippin' heartbreaking. Like, it was so much easier when the kids were little. Like, I just didn't think that my life would be where it's at 50. I love my kids, but why is it this hard? Where's the respect at for parents and appreciation for all they've done for you your entire life? Like, I don't get it.
The concept of no contact has been going around a lot lately, and so I want to answer this question genuinely as a therapist who sees a lot of clients who have got no contact. I think one of the largest things to recognize as a parent of an adult child is generational differences. So for starters, people who are in their 50s, 60s plus who have adult children grew up in a generation where it was very common for children to be seen, not heard, and respect equated to just acquiescing to whatever your parents kind of wanted. Respect often meant you didn't have boundaries, whereas mental health now is and continues to be a large conversation. Relationships with family members are one of the only relationships in which people are encouraged to make amends with people who have been abusive towards them, who have manipulated them, who consistently cross their boundaries, etc. And as a therapist, what I often hear in these situations is that from the child's perspective, there's been multiple attempts to repair the relationship, to explain the behaviors that are hurtful and harmful, yet the behaviors continue. Or there just isn't the safety or the space to have that discussion in the first place. Another thing is that in terms of gratitude for the parent taking care of them or just, creating them, I think that is often seen to be synonymous with I will have a relationship with you forever. Someone can be grateful for their life, for their parents, for the efforts that have been made, but also decide that a relationship is not for them.
Let me say one thing about cutting people off. It's very much like holding a grudge, and it's not for the empathetic. In order to hold a no contact boundary, you have to carry anger and resentment with you. Every time that person reaches out to you, you have to regurgitate all of your feelings, all of your toxic memories and feelings in order to validate your decision to continue to not respond to that person. Especially if it's your mom or dad, you have to weigh over and over again, will I regret this when I am on my deathbed? Justifying your own morality in making this decision, which is extremely tough. Going no contact is not an easy option. It's an active fight, and it's a fight against yourself. What decision can we make that would prevent us from fighting defense all the time, that would be less emotionally draining? And clearly we've set boundaries before that they continue to cross. So it's not a question of whether or not you've made yourself clear before. I propose taking a page out of the Gentle Parenting Handbook about whether or not you are setting boundaries correctly, because I know in many cases I have not done it the right way. Highlighting this approach can make you consider whether or not there is one more avenue you can try before going no contact. A boundary is not about what they can or cannot do. A boundary is what you will do in reaction to their actions. We know you cannot control other people. You cannot control them from yelling, screaming, saying bad words, lashing out at you. Funny, because that's what they were trying to do to kids all along. There's like so much a grand irony in this video. But because we are assuming that the only other alternative is to go fully no contact, I'm assuming that you are able to take space away from this person in whatever sense that means. So setting the boundary correctly goes something like this. Let's say the parent starts yelling at you. Your boundary is, if someone starts yelling at me, I will walk away from that situation. So really, it doesn't matter at all what they do. I know what I will do. I will walk away. And in that moment, if I can't make it clear that I'm not going to be in a situation to get yelled at, I will send a text later, or I will follow up with a message and say, I will not engage with you if you are yelling at me. That's my boundary. I step back. But it's not all or nothing, and the parent can't be a victim. You say, I will play this game, but I will only play it on my terms. Now, if, for example, you have already evaluated your boundary setting and you said, this didn't work for me, then please go ahead. I am not advocating against no contact. My only point is self-awareness, so that we know for ourselves what we would or would not regret, and so that we are not doing no contact and hurting ourselves as a result. And I'm also aware that I have not set boundaries correctly in the past, and something like this actually does make a big difference in my interactions, both with my child, my parents, my partner, like literally anything else in life. Learning about parenting philosophies can literally make you into a better person for all relationships in your life. I do want to end on a fun note and kind of a wild story, which is a great countercultural example of how we can handle conflict. And that is the example of Jean Briggs, who was a Harvard graduate student who went to live in the Arctic Circle. She got an Inuit family to adopt her, and she goes on to write about their culture and also what she experienced being from a completely different angle. She writes that even just showing a smidgen of frustration or irritation was considered weak and childlike. Her examples of how they handle conflict are wild. For instance, one time someone knocked a pot of boiling tea across the igloo, damaging the ice floor. No one changed their expression. Too bad, the offender said calmly and went to refill the teapot. In another instance, a fishing line which had taken days to braid immediately broke on first use. No one flinched in anger. Sew it together, someone said quietly. This student, Jean, was absolutely bewildered, and we know from our own experiences that we have so many microaggressions and tensions in our daily life that would have us maybe raise our voice, maybe change our expression, maybe get irritable. And she found herself feeling very judged and out of place in this culture. It was such a stark contrast that it was a floodlight on how we handle conflict as a society and as a culture. And I say we very broadly because so many other cultures do acknowledge the fact that people get irritable and angry, and we see yelling, arguing, fighting in all TV and movies. If I had knocked over a boiling pot and damaged the floor, I would have gotten it. And I'm sure a lot of parents would have had a difficult time keeping a straight face if that happened with a child. Even all of us quote-unquote gentle parents. We are so lucky as a generation to be online at a time where literally your therapist might come online, or therapy speak is mainstream so we can figure out what it means to be gaslit or manipulated and if that applies to us. We are healing our inner child and also challenging the statement that you'll see when you become a parent, because we are parents now and we can see that we would do things very differently. Ultimately, we can learn from every relationship, especially the toxic ones, about what we do and do not want in our lives and in our family. I can choose a better partner and I can have a healthier relationship with him and my kids as a result, and also my other relationships in life. Instead of holding on to that anger, we can be grateful for it as a learning experience, and that's the only way to make the best out of it.